Welcome back to the next video, or our next session with this online grocery store, Georgian online grocery store to be exact as to what it says. And this week what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little bit of look at some unfamiliar syntax, a bit of HTML, some stuff with the models. Okay, and really quickly before I do that, I do want to just have a quick look on what we did last time. So we created in our nav bar this store, and we click on one of these categories and it's actually updating the URL. Okay, so category 201, let's go to 3, so 203. So that's kind of where we left off. And when we get to our Visual Studio Code, I've got everything turned off. If you look inside our categories, what we have is this category, and it's a model. And so what this is actually doing is it's meant to, our models actually mirror our database, all the properties in our database. So today, I think what I want to start off with is just kind of updating some of the data validation and things like that. Stuff you may have seen in your HTML before. But this is where, for example, we say that something is required. We want it to have some sort of property so that when the user has an input or asks for an input, we're prompting them to give us the right information, or even prompting them to give us some sort of an information that we are then going to validate, or at least we need to make sure that they don't move on in the process without providing that information. So what I want to do is put in these annotations. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to put in is just to show you an example of what I'm talking about. I want a square bracket for this. Okay, this is how we tell it that we need to put in these annotations. And because I want the user to put in the name, I'm going to say required. Okay, notice it's not actually popping up in my IntelliSense. Okay, so even if I try to get back to this part, it's not picking it up. Like, I'm not spelling it wrong. So sorry. So I've typed that in there, but you see the red squiggly line, and it's asking me for, it's got some statements on there, but it's saying show potential fix. So if I click on that, what you're seeing is it doesn't have this reference. So when you look at the top up here, you're seeing using system.collections generic, all of those things. It's actually looking for component model dot data annotation. Okay, so I'll click on that. You'll see the line does go away, and it changed to almost a bluish color. But you can see up here on line 3, this reference is there. So what we mean by references, in case I didn't cover it well enough before, is that there's a whole library of code or methods or functionality that's in the .NET library, somewhere hidden in all, those thousands of course files or code files. This is how we get to access those. And when we put these in there, it means, hey, reach into that library and get this functionality for me because I want to use it in my application. Okay, so that's what's happening here is I'm using the required. And what that'll mean is anytime I am trying to type something into this field and I don't put that in there, I'm going to get some sort of notification to the user. Okay. Like I talked about before, this isn't the most useful thing we could ever have going on. So we are going to make changes to this, but this is an online store, right? So we're going to have categories of some kind. So what I want to do right now is go ahead and actually make a form that you can populate so that you can now input whatever custom categories that you want to put in there. So for example, if I want to put in produce, fruit, vegetables, grains, I can put those categories in there now. Okay, so by creating a form, I very specifically have a user input just for that one item that I want to add to populate my website. So I'm going to go ahead and do a form. Now, keep in mind we have not done the registration and login. Okay, at some point in the future we are going to get into the authentication and stuff like that. At this point, anybody who went on this website could go in literally and start adding their own categories. So a customer could go in there right now and start adding their own categories if we do this form. But obviously we're not ready to go live yet to the public. So we're going to create the form, and then later on we will talk about authorization and authentication. Okay, so for now I'll go back to my Visual Studio. Okay, and I'm going to go to my store controller. Okay, and we're going to add this this other function down here, or method. Okay, so this is going to be a public. Sorry guys, you're just going to have to suffer through it like I do. And IA action result. Okay, and we're going to call this one add category. Okay, and it's a method. So, and you'll notice when I did that, there's no library method. This is something that I'm actually defining. So I'm going to put in a note here, and it's going to be load a form to capture an object from a user. Okay, so you can see here that the line is still underlined. Okay, it's because we don't have a return value right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in our return value. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do a return. I hope some of you guessed that anyway, or kind of figured that out. View. Okay, and you see that the error gets cleared off. So we're gonna want to put a link to this inside our store index. Okay. I should go back up here and just add this little comment really quickly. Okay, just so that it's very clear what we're doing. And this is where you should be putting URLs. So store add category. Okay. I think that should be good. Okay, so now if we go, and I'll save that, and in fact, not only will I save it, but I'm going to build it because I'm actually working inside of C#. So when I go to my site, at some point, if I want to create a form, I'm going to need an actual button to create a form. But so far, nothing's changed here. Okay, nothing has changed whatsoever. Okay. So all we've done at this point is we've added this add category method, and we've added this required line for this name. Okay. So let's go over to our views. Okay, I'm in store. So it's basically views, store, and index. Okay. And what have I got in here? Is there anything in there of any value to me right now? I think I got rid of all that other stuff that we had in there before. So when I do go to my views store index, okay, we're in here. I want you to think about kind of the steps that we're actually going to take next. Okay. And, what I want to do is I'm just giving myself some space is I'm going to just do this. Okay. But inside here, I'm going to do ASP dot controller. Okay. And try to guess which controller it is. Like hopefully you can understand where that's going. Okay. And I get outside of that and I want another one. ASP dot action. Okay. And this one here, what I'm going to call it is add category. Okay. It's the same as the other method that I called. Okay. So if you think about it, we're in the store controller. Okay. And when we go back to what we had here before, this is the method that I'm connected to. Okay, this is what I'm reaching out to. That's what I want to get to. So I'm going to actually make sure that that's spelled exactly the same. Why not, right? And so on the outside of this, I'm going to call this, I'll say add a new category. Okay, and change that to a capital C, just for some symmetry. Okay. So something I do want to point out, you see the line, the green line here on the between line 2 and 5. That's because Visual Studio always shows you what the changes are in the code. Okay, and I've already saved it. Okay, I can hit that save or save all. Okay, now let's go out to our screen and see what the update is. See if there is any update. So there it is. It says add a new category. So if I click on that, I'm getting this. I'm getting the locations were searched. Okay, so the view add category was not found. It went to views, store, add category, CSHTML, views shared, pages shared. It's not there, right? So I'm hoping by now you see this sort of repetitive nature that we've been getting into, where you're not seeing it because we actually haven't done it. We haven't created the view yet. Okay. So obviously when we clicked on that button, okay, we're getting this error and it's saying that it's looking for these views, but this is the view. Okay, it's trying to get to this view. Okay, and this is always the view that links. So this is again, wash, rinse, repeat, same thing. But if we go over to our views, okay, we're not returning a view to this add category. Okay, so you can see that browse exists, okay, which is this, okay, and index exists, which is this file over here. But we don't have a view that says add category, and that's what this is trying to return. So typically up to this point, we've been producing these views a certain way. They're kind of blank for the most part, and we're just going in and doing some quick editing and changing the view to what we want. But this one's going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. So I think you're really going to like this. Okay, so like I said, that this is a little bit of wash, rinse, repeat. But here's where we get to maximize all the built-in tools of the .NET Core. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to store. Okay, because it's a view. I want to. My goal here is to create a view. I'm going to go to View, Store, right-click on there, and I'm going to do Add a View. Okay, this is what we've done before. Typically, what we've done is we've gone into empty. We've just created an empty view. But this time, what I want to do is select this Razor View. Okay, and it says a Razor View with or without a strongly typed model. Okay. ID Razor View Scaffolder. So select the Razor View, go to Add. Okay, and I'm going to give it a name, which is going to be the Add category. And it's going to be spelled the same as what I've got on line 32 here. Okay, now here's the really cool thing is now I am actually going to create a template. Okay, so if you look at this, we've got create, delete, details, edit, empty, and list. In this particular case, because I'm trying to create a category or add a category to my web application, I'm selecting the template for create. Okay. Okay, another great thing about this is that our model class, okay, that it says right here. Okay, if we go over to our Solution Explorer and you really think about this, what we're trying to do is add this category. We've got this models category over here, which is the model class that we already created. So when I go into here, what you're going to see is the third one down from the top is the actual model class that we previously created. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to select that as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is don't worry about data context class right now. But if you have these boxes, make sure that you check the bottom two, okay? Especially this one here. This one's a really important one. If I don't check this, I can't select that, okay? So remember where our footer is. Okay, so when I go back and I look at my site, okay, this stuff here down at the bottom. Okay, remember where that is, because what I'm trying to do is keep using that common look and feel that so far I'm accustomed to in my page. So if you look over here, you can see in the views, okay, we've got this views home and views shared. Typically we've used this underscore layout, layout.cshtml. That's the one I want to browse to. So it pops up a little bit different in here. So I'm going to go to my views and shared. That means I'm sharing that all that formatting with across all my different actual views that I've been using. So I'm going to do the top one, the underscore layout.cshtml, select OK. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply go ahead and click the add button. And you can see that it's auto-generating all of that code for that view in the background. And just in a second, we're going to go through in a little bit more detail, but I'm going to want to take a look at this. Okay, so let's go through this at the top. First off, we have in our views, we have this new view called an add category. That's this page here. Okay, it's got this reference here to the Georgian groceries.model category. And that's saying, okay, we're going to use content from our category. All right, it's got the this view data, and it's talking about the layout. Okay, that's the file that gives us that common look and feel. So far, we've got a lot of stuff that's already been done for us. It's now giving us a heading. It's giving us another subheading. And what's really great is it's actually generated a form out of the two items inside our category model, okay, which was ID and name. Okay, so if we go back to that, you'll see inside our form, we've got our ID and we have a name. Here's the other cool thing. It's actually got a button for us. Okay, it's got a submit button right here on this line for us in that view. And it's going to basically say create. So we'll type in a thing and it'll say create, plus a little bit of extras in there. So when we look at this, you're going to see what it is. But what's really great about this, honestly, is that's what's that work out to? 39 lines of code. Okay, 39 lines of code that if you wanted, you could have done it all hydraulically, or in this particular case, you let it all happen for you. Okay, so let's save this because it's HTML. I'm going to hit a save everything, and I'm going to go out to my page and I'm going to refresh that. And I just lost my link because it took a little bit to actually do that. So don't panic if that's what happens. Just give it a second to do the refresh. Now, when I go to add a new category, look at what I'm getting. Okay, I've got this ID. Okay, 1, 2, I can go all the way down, scroll back to whatever. Okay, and then this name. I can type in the name. Okay, so that's pretty powerful given the fact that we didn't do really very much code whatsoever. One thing I didn't mention was that it's got this little button down here too that says back to list. Okay, so if I go back to list, that's a navigation line of code to bring us back to here, and then add a new category so I can go back and forth between these two buttons over and over. Okay, now last thing, look at the URL. Okay, store add category. Okay, stores my controller. Add category is actually my method right here. And it's saying, okay, go into the view, grab that, now return this view that coincides with this here, okay? So it's pretty powerful given the we didn't really do many lines of code whatsoever to get this much functionality. So I think that's a pretty impressive thing to have with this framework. Remember when we were in our categories model? So I want to show you something that's in this. So if I do just one, okay, ID 1, and then I try to hit create. Notice it says the name field is required. That was because of this. So I'm back in my categories.cs, okay, and what I will do is I'll actually go in and build that solution out because I haven't done that in a while. But I go back and I'll do a refresh and I'll do a 1 and create. The name field is required. That is because we insisted on that data annotation, okay? So it's been a bit since I've done a save to my repo, and I'm going to add in that, what am I going to say that I've done? Added a new view called add category with a razor view. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. And I'm just going to hit commit all, sync. Okay, and then I'm just going to push that. Okay, and that should go out to my GitHub. Okay, so it says successfully pushed to origin master. That's fine. Okay, what's next? Okay, so now we're going to get to some really interesting things, but we're not going to go too far beyond this point today. Okay, so for the most part, what I'm going to do is I've got on my computer this, it's Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio 18. So that's the icon there. It should be available to you guys as well for Georgian students. You should probably have it already in your, I think you guys might be doing a database course anyway, so you should have this. If not, if you're just following along on YouTube, then try to get this Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, and we're going to see if we can sync up or connect our Azure database. Okay, we'll see what we can do though. Okay, so I've got this open, and I'm going to leave the top one left default to database engine. I've got this, it says server name here, and that's just the default to my actual computer. Okay, you may want to do something like this. Brackets, 2 brackets, and in the middle say local. Okay, you may want to be able to do that. Okay, but for the most part, I'm going to just leave what that default is on mine. And I'm going to leave the default Windows authentication for now. Okay, so because if I do SQL Server authentication, it's going to ask me for my login and password. And of course, I don't remember either one. So what I'm going to do is go to Windows Authentication, and I'm going to hit Connect. Okay. And so what you're seeing here is I've got these, this database engine over here, and now on my actual computer on the side, let me do a quick refresh on that, and I'm going to look at my databases. And what you see is I've got this Georgian computers. This was from last semester. Okay, so that's in there. And then here's today's. So if you got to this point, you're doing pretty good. Okay, so let's continue on, and don't get too flustered if you are having difficulty with this. Just pause the video and start over. Okay, so let's continue on. So first thing I do want to do is create a new database. Okay, so I'm going to select on my databases, right click, very easy, new database. Okay, it gives me this prompt, and right here it says database name, and I'm going to call it Georgian Groceries. Okay, nothing fancy. From here, I'm just going to ignore everything else and just go with OK. Now, you can see over here that I've got this new database called Georgian Groceries. Okay, and if I expand that, what you're seeing is a database diagram, and I get this message. Do you wish to create them? No. Tables. Okay, I haven't created any of my own tables yet. I haven't created any views. I haven't done anything yet. Okay, so I'm going to close all that stuff up, but just be aware that I've now, at this point, created Georgian Groceries. Okay. So there's one way to check to see if my SQL server is actually running. And that's, I'm going to go down to here and I'm going to type services. Okay, services. That should pop up, hit enter. And you got services, local. And if I go down, all the way down into the S's, the SQ area, what you're seeing is this SQL server. The status is that it's running and it's automatic. Okay. So that tells you whether or not your SQL server is actually running in the background. And I would expect that to be that way if my Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio is on. But that's how you go and find out if it's actually running. So every time I boot up or I start my computer, my Windows is going, this says that automatically, that startup type is automatic. My SQL server starts up too. So if you get into a scenario right now and it's not running, you highlight it, right click on it and select this start. Okay. So that's all you need to do to get it to start running. So right click on there and then select start. Look, I'll do a pause. Okay, it's pausing. Notice the status, it's paused. And I'll go back and I'll do resume. In fact, I'll do a restart. Okay, and it's back running again. If for the purposes of your term project, you want to go to Azure, I do recommend you go to Azure or to another server system. But if not, you can do it this way, locally on your hard drive. Okay, it just means that nobody else in the world is going to be able to see it outside of your computer. So, you know, this work that we're doing is not actually a database course, okay? But, you know, it is server-side work that we're doing, so it's important that you can actually connect into something. But to make your, while you're in the development of all this stuff, it is actually going to be faster if you're using your local computer as the server, okay? Your processing time would just be much better. As opposed to having to bounce back and forth between Azure or some other server somewhere else, okay? So we'll take a look, I hope, at possibly connecting into Azure, but for the most part, you know, if you want to go ahead and connect into your own, use your own computer as a server, that's fine too. So there's another thing that we can do if you don't want to do the management studio. Okay, so I'm going to close that and I can go into view. It's Server Explorer right here. I've got mine open already and you see it says data connections. Okay, I can go on there and I can right click, so add connection, and go to Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, hit continue. And notice when I do the drop down, it says, please wait while we retrieve the list of servers. Okay, so this sometimes takes a bit of time. So that didn't produce anything. So what I will do is just type in that local in the brackets again. So local. Okay, and okay, so that was incredibly slow, but what I've got down here is connect to a database, select or enter a database name, and you'll see down in the drop downs, I've got Georgian groceries. Okay, and I'm going to do a test connection. The test connection successful. Hit OK, and then select OK. And then what you're seeing over here is that's my database right there. Okay, is Georgian computers. The issue there is that doing it through here is actually slower than doing it through Management Studio. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back out and I'm going to close that connection. Okay, notice the little red X on there. Okay, and then I'm just going to close that. So I'm going to continue to stay connected through here, through my Management Studio. Okay, and yeah, that's all good. Connect. And in my databases, you can see right here, Georgian groceries, I'm still good. Okay, so that's how I'm going to stay connected. Okay, so let's have a look and see if we can connect into this Azure. I have one concern about my Azure account. I'm going to close this out. And my concern is that I've used up all my my time on there. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone to my Microsoft Azure. Okay, I'm logged in and I'm under this Azure services. Okay, so I've done some digging around and a little bit of this, a little bit of that, registered here, there, and the other thing. And turns out I might be able to actually do this now. So I've hit this button here. It says create a resource. Okay, and I'm going to go down to databases. Okay, SQL database right here. All right, and I'm going to just try to go ahead and follow through and do this. Okay, so it looks like we're going to go through this wizard. Okay, and it's we're at basics. And right away it says subscription Azure for students. That's what I want. Okay. And I've got a resource group, nothing in the drop down. So I'll create a new one. And I'm going to call this one Georgian Georgian grocery store. Okay. I'm going to hit OK. Okay. And you can see that it's in there. Okay, then it's looking for a server, and I think what I'll do is I click on that and it brings me over to here. Okay, and it's going to look for a location. And I think the last time I was in there, I'll go with Central Canada, see if that does anything. Okay. So I'll come back over to here and then I'll get back into that server stuff. So database name, I'm going to call it just Georgian groceries. Okay, so it's got all these issues here and I get green lights from everything. And then a server, no available items. So when I did the create new, it brought me over to this page over here. Okay. But can't start with a hyphen or be more than 63 characters. Just gonna call it Georgian the specified server name is already in use, so Georgian groceries. Okay, it seems to allow that. Okay, all one word. Server admin. So your login name must not contain an SQL identifier or typical blah blah blah. So you can read into that. Your login name must not include non-alphabetic characters. Your login name must not start with numbers or symbols. So I'm gonna just come up with something. Server admin login. How about Tom Razzo? Okay, that worked. Password, I'll come up with something. It's got to be at least 8 characters. And some stuff. confirm. Good. And we'll go with this central. So we hit OK. Save. Good thing I've got this on recording, because there's no way I'm going to remember that stuff. Now I'm going to change my want to use SQL Elastic Pool to no. Okay. And then let's go to the next option. Actually, I need to go back to previous, and I'm going to do review and create. Okay, so now we're into here, and let's go right here right now to review pricing details. Okay, I don't like that. Cost per month is $545.04. I don't like that at all. Okay, I almost missed an important step. You go back to this basic here, okay, and then down here where it says configure database. Okay, we need to go into there. Okay, and this is what we're looking for in terms of the money. So this one is $545, you can see over here. That's nasty. That's not what I want at all. Yeah, so I don't want this general purpose. I want looking for basic, standard, premium right here. So let's click on that. $2. Let's see, how do I get that down? How do I get that to drop down? Basic? No. Still too much money if you ask me. I'm just going to ignore what it says there about the $7. I really don't think it's going to actually charge me any money. So I'll hit apply. Okay, now review and create. All right, I'm just going to view pricing details. Just take one more look at that. Hit OK. Let's see what happens. Hit create. Initializing deployment. Okay, so I'm getting over to this page and it says deployment is in progress. So just so you know, it's taking quite some time, and I've actually paused the video, but it's now starting to do more of what I'm hoping to see. Okay, it's giving me status accepted, servers okay, servers created. Okay, but it's still doing its thing. So I'm now into this page. Okay, so your deployment is complete. Now I'm gonna hit this go to resource. Okay, this is taking me to my database. Now by default, you can't remote access into your Azure database. Okay, so let's go to this set server firewall. So I'm gonna click on that. So I'm onto this screen here now, and it says right here, it says halfway down in the middle of the screen, allow Azure services and resources to access this service. So I'm going to change that to yes. Okay, I'm going to create this rule, and it's going to be, I'm going to say everyone. Okay, with 0. Okay, and then it's going to be 255.255.255.255. Okay, so that created the rule, and you can see it highlighted over here now. Okay, so if we don't do this, you don't do this, or I don't do this, if you're on a laptop or another device, you won't actually be able to get into the database. Okay, so that's why it's got to actually happen. So I think I'll go up to here and I'm going to hit save. Okay, updating server firewall rules, successfully updated firewall rules for server, Georgian groceries. So that's really good. Okay, now we're going to try to connect this database over to our Management Studio. So I'm going to turn Management Studio back on. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I got to go to this page, and you see where it says server name. Okay, I hit this copy to clipboard. That's the server name that we defined. I'm going to click on that so it's copied. And I'm going to go into my Management Studio. Okay, and right here where it says server name, I'm actually going to paste that in there. Okay, I'll leave my Windows authentication and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so here, what I'm going to do is change this to SQL Server Authentication. And I believe this was just Tom Marazzo. And then my password. Okay, and I'll go with a remember password. Why not? And from here, let's try it out. And if this doesn't work, we've got one other way of doing it. Okay, so awesome. You can see here that I'm now connected into that database. Okay. And I've got Georgian Groceries right here. Okay, and so far I don't have anything in there. I don't have any tables or anything that's of any value to me yet. Okay, so what we've done in this video is, in a very painful and roundabout way, we've connected 3 different kind of methods, 2 local and 1 into our Azure database. So that's a really good thing. I'm really hoping that you got it that far, but if you can't get into the Azure database, that's okay. Maybe we do a one-on-one, or you just do some YouTubing. Either way, it is possible. Okay. There's one more thing that I want to do, because I think what's going to happen is I could end up getting really confused as to which one I'm in. Okay, so at the moment, what I'm going to do is just disconnect from that. Okay. And from here, if I go to my local server groups, I can right click, because what I'm going to do is reconnect into that Azure database and then give it a name, some sort of Azure identifier kind of a thing. So I'm going to do a new server registration. Okay, and that server name was the same thing that we had the last time, this georgiangroceries.database.windows.net. And we went with SQL Server Authentication and my login, my password. Okay, that's all new stuff that was in there. And I'm going to just test that. So the connection was tested successfully. Okay, great. So it says right down here on this line, it says registered server name. Okay, and you read this note, you can replace the registered server name with a new name and optional server description. So I'm just going to add the word Azure. Okay, and I'll throw in a hyphen in there. Okay. This connects to the Azure server. Okay. It is not local. Okay. So I'll test that again. Great. And I'm going to hit save. Now you can see on there, it does have this connection connects to the Azure server. It is not local. Okay. All right. So I'll go to Management Studio. Okay. And I'm going to turn it off. And I'm going to go back again. Turn it back on. Okay, and I can just hit cancel here, and notice it still stays on. Okay, but when I hit this local server groups, if I just double click that, it's now connecting me into my Azure database. Okay, and you can see right here, I'm connected to Georgian Groceries, and it's under my Azure Georgian Groceries.database. Okay, so we're good from this point. Okay, in this particular case, what I'm going to do to stop it is because I don't want to keep using up my Georgian, my credits that I have to use Azure. So I'm back in here, and you can see this top line here. It says home and then this big long link. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to hit this delete button right here. Delete. Are you sure you want to delete this deployment? This will only delete the deployment history, but will leave the resources unaffected. So I'll hit yes. Okay, so I am going to get rid of it. After all, I've decided it's taking up too many resources. Okay, so we're going to type the database name. I guess this is just a double check, right? So it's going to be this here. And deleting database. Okay, and I'm going to have to go back into this and just to double check. So I've closed out my management studio. We didn't do a heck of a lot inside here other than do the add category. Next video, I'm going to come back and start working with more of the models. Okay, we'll get into something called scaffolding. But for this week, it is a bit of a short week for us, I think. The important thing is that we understood how to connect various databases, either local or through Azure. And I think we've done that, and we've set up that one category. We've set up a new view, looked a little bit of Razor syntax. All in all, not a lot going on. But next week when we come back, that's when we're going to connect the two databases with those different, the other resources we have in this project. So anyway, I'm going to cut it off there, and then next week should be interesting. So have a good week, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.